Growing Up Weird.
Hi, and welcome to Growing Up Weird, the podcast where we explore how the earliest chapters of Western childhoods shape the health stories that we then carry into our adulthoods. I'm Dr. Greg Dickens, scientist and consultant in medical innovation, and I am here with Dr. Gwen Bradbury.
Hello.
Who is a healthcare researcher, author, and your guide through the science, stories, and traditional strategies that connect childhood beginnings to lifelong good health. Each week, we dig into the newest evidence, understand how it links together, and walk through some of the changes that we in the West could make to give kids decades of better health. So, whether you're a parent, a teacher, a healthcare professional, or simply curious about how the body and brain develop over time, you're in the right place. Are you ready? Have you got a cup of tea? Good. We begin, as ever, with the news. Guinevere, have you got news?
Yes.
Tell me your news.
I am talking underwear and testicles.
Oh, as you normally are.
Absolutely.
Tell me more.
Okay, so this is a paper done on adults, but I think might be some interesting things to think about when we're thinking about how boys grow testicles.
Okay.
And that is, there was a study that came out of the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health from Minguez Alarcon et al. And they said, is the type of underwear that men report wearing linked to markers of how their testicles work?
Right, okay, yeah, the traditional don't keep them too warm thing.
Exactly,
Okay,
yeah.
What do they find?
And I will just say that this study was done at a fertility centre, so obviously it's not necessarily general population.
Okay.
But it was quite a big study, 636 men, and what they did was they got men to fill out a survey about their personal underwear choices, and then they looked at various different markers of sperm quality and of a hormone called FSH, which is the hormone that makes testicles produce sperm. So they basically looked at how the testicles were working in terms of output, but also how they were kind of being driven.
Sure.
And what I found particularly interesting is that men who reported wearing primarily boxer shorts, which are much less tight than, say, briefs or other types of underwear, they had 25% higher sperm concentration and 14% lower stimulating hormone, which suggests...
that's interesting.
It is interesting, isn't it? Because they're kind of looking both the downstream and the upstream. So it looks like the men who were wearing boxer shorts had testicles that were working more effectively while requiring less kind of hormonal drive to try and make them work.
That's interesting. Now, I am curious about the concentration thing, obviously. Mm-hmm. Is that just they were worse at making the fluid, but they got the same amount of sperm, or they're better at making sperm and they got the same amount of fluid?
So they did also look at total sperm count, which was also about 12% higher.
Oh,
so
fascinating.
it's not just that they were kind of like dehydrated semen. That is the one phrase that I just never thought I'd actually have to say.
Please, that's a phrase you come across a lot if you're a bug nerd. Sperm pellets are very much a thing. Oh yeah, bugs love them. They love a sperm pellet.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I feel like we've gone through, like, veterinary training teaches you all about the weird and wonderful ways that mammals reproduce. And then, maybe if we're lucky, a little bit about birds.
Yeah.
But yeah, bugs are a whole new level of...
Oh, yeah. There's a bug out there with a sperm longer than the bug, which is quite amusing.
Really?
Yeah.
Do they, like, wrap it up, or do they just, shoot for a long time?
they shoot and then back off. So it coils. Anyway,
Oh my goodness,
sorry,
that's amazing. Well, actually, one question I have, and this is a pretty minefield question. So when I was reading around this paper, I was like, why do we wear underwear so much? It's about friction, reducing chafing, reducing any kind of, contamination of your clothes that are larger and harder to wash with fluids that you produce from your genitals or anus or whatever. But one of the things I read was that men should wear underwear to kind of support the testicles like a bra.
Support?
Yeah, I mean, like, is
I've
this
got
a
ligaments
thing?
for that.
Yeah. Are they, like, uncomfortable when they're, like, hanging?
Yeah, okay,
dangle?
so from a male point of view, at least from a masculine point of view, should it be a very hot day, and should I be required to, without prior warning, leap out of the way of a car, predator, or asteroid? Yeah, there's a G-force effect, but you've got a cremaster muscle here, and you've got the kind of scrotal skin which does itself contract quite well, and any shock, surprise, or asteroid leads to them being kind of retracted into their own little safe house, which normally prevents any trouble while you're jumping, running, swimming, Maybe not swimming. Swimming does weird things, but whatever. Normally that's not an issue.
Fascinating.
But I guess for those occasions, for the sweaty man, when he has to leap once in a blue moon, yeah, sure, underwear might be useful.
Interesting. Well, I was thinking about the implications for children, because men don't typically necessarily, I suspect, think a huge amount about how their underwear affects their testicular function, unless they have a problem, I would guess. Or do you think this is a very common preoccupation? I can't really speak for men, can I?
To be honest, I can't speak for most men either. I have significant training in testicular function. Animal breeding and husbandry is a large part of the veterinary degree, as you know. I always think about testicular function when I put on my underwear.
Well, what I was curious about was thinking, because you've mentioned heat.
Yep.
Both heat and pressure
So
are
I
likely
was going to
to
mention
cause...
pressure.
Yeah, you can imagine that both of them in an organ that is fairly compressible and that is designed to kind of get away from your body when it gets too hot. And
Just from a man.
you're going to say they're not compressible.
Just try not to call them compressible. Nobody likes thinking about them being compressed.
Well, fluid flow could be changed
Yes, that's
in
true.
a kind of small, long-term, chronic way. I can imagine that.
Yes.
But what I was curious about is, this has not been studied. There's nothing in the evidence base. But I did wonder about the effect of, the underwear that a boy wears when he is small and his testicles are not doing so much, when the underwear that he uses as he goes through puberty.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if there are some feedback loops, for example, because you can imagine that some boys will have, sort of more dangly scrotums or tighter scrotums, and that there should be some degree of temperature regulation or some degree of feedback systems to try and enable maintenance of the testicles at the sort of in their kind of working conditions. I just wonder if there is likely to be an effect in that kind of critical developmental window.
Man, you're very close to linking this to bras here, aren't you?
Evidence isn't strong on bras.
Oh, okay, fair enough. So for anybody who doesn't understand that link, there's a hypothesis that support during breast development leads to not so much development of is it the nuchal? It's not the nuchal.
No,
what is that?
I can't remember what the ligament
There's a
is in the
ligament
breast.
over the top of the breast that holds it up, and if you don't stress it, there's a hypothesis that it doesn't become so strong, leading to people who wear bras while they're developing, leading to needing to continue wearing bras as they are adults. Not very well evidenced, not very well researched, if I'm honest. Is this likely to influence young boys who have their testicles supported while they're developing and then can't support them so well or can't control the dangle? There's got to be a joke in here somewhere. When they're older, maybe, but that hasn't been studied. The bit that caught my attention was this change in stimulating hormone, because that implies the body. There's a hormone response loop where the body understands how much sperm is being made.
Yeah.
Because I know nothing of that. I've never been taught about that. The idea that the body can sperm count and then up the stimulating hormone to try to improve sperm count. That's a whole new thing for me. I'm really interested in that.
So I didn't read very much about it, but apparently FSH in men is a biomarker of infertility.
Higher the worse. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating. All right.
Anyway, I thought it was a good paper, even though it's on adults at a fertility centre. I think there's some interesting things that we can think about for children as well. So maybe when you're thinking about, what underwear that you're going to encase your little son's small balls in, why not? Why don't we consider boxer shorts rather than anything too tight? Sorry, another phrase that I just never thought to say, especially not on a podcast.
On that, let's go to Nicholas Worm Anderson et al.
Nicholas Worm Anderson.
No, we're not teasing people about their names, not when they're from
Great
foreign
name.
countries, but yes. Nicholas Worm Anderson et al. From the Staten Serum Institute in Copenhagen. Hagen?
Depends if you're trying to say it in a Danish accent or a UK accent.
Copenhagen. Studied health records of 1.2 million people who had received aluminium-adsorbed vaccines. And the reason I raise this, my dear listener, is that RFK Jr. is currently absolutely hammering vaccine research and rollout and education in the US. And a big part of that is aluminium is the devil, apparently. So, in this study, talked about on the Nature website and released in Annals of Internal Medicine, when about a week ago, no, about 2 weeks ago, showed that in 1.2 million Danes injected with aluminium-adsorbed vaccines between the years of 1997 and 2018 showed a risk ratio for neurological and other diseases of almost exactly 1.
Okay.
Plus or minus 0.03.
Okay.
There is nothing that they could find in this study, and they have done... Well, they've done a lot of statistics. I can't tell whether they're good statistics or not, but there's certainly a lot of statistics in the paper. They cannot find links to autoimmune, neurological, endocrinological, hematologic, gastrointestinal, or rheumatic diseases at all.
You know what? Statistically, I find that actually quite surprising.
You should find one, especially if you're sticking to the 0.95 confidence, but I think they have gone rather beyond that. I just thought I'd chuck that in for any of our listeners who are stuck in the United States of America and having to deal with RFK's absolutely random healthcare policies and the damage being done to science in the US. From Europe, if you are in any way related to European bloodlines, specifically the Danes, but I bet it's pretty similar for most people, you do not have to worry about aluminium-adsorbed injected vaccines as a child. There you
Great.
go. That's my news for the week.
Yeah, love it. Thank you.
So, news done. Or, healthcare news hammered down people's throats there. Sorry. What are we talking about? What's our theme for the week?
Today we're talking about parental burnout. But
yeah.
we took a slightly different view. Rather than looking a lot at the kind of cognitive, psychological stuff, we said, what is it that you might change in your environment a little bit to help protect you against parental burnout?
Mm-hmm. And for those thinking, but this is a podcast about how early life experience affects long-term health. How could they be talking about parental burnout? Well, I'll have you know that parental burnout affects early life experience for the children of those parents getting burnt out. That is well evidenced and also easy to guess. Mm-hmm. So, where are we starting with this one, Gwen?
So, I think let's just start with a very obvious thing that everyone knows. Why are parents feeling quite stressed?
Yeah.
Should we start there?
I mean, you say everybody knows. I can guess a few guesses, but I've no idea if my experience is of being burned out, of just being stressed out.
Yeah, just being stressed.
I had a level of stress which was very difficult to cope with, but I could cope with it. Mm-hmm. Can we actually start with what is burnout?
Yeah, absolutely. Burnout in general occurs because of chronic exposure to emotionally draining environments. And people typically experience something called emotional exhaustion, so you're just too tired to care, in effect, depersonalization, so losing your kind of sense of self, your personhood, and decrease in your self-fulfillment.
Wow. Depersonalization sounds pretty horrible. I'm not sure if I want to dig into the psychiatry of that, but wow.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that's burnout. Mm-hmm. And parental burnout is just that happens to parents?
In effect. So it's feeling exhausted in your parental role. It's feeling, when you think about yourself now and think about how you were previously, it's feeling really dissatisfied and unhappy. It's feeling that you're very fed up with being a parent. And because of all of this kind of chronic stress and chronic strain, it results in parents emotionally distancing from themselves from their children in a sort of protective way. They don't have any more that they can give.
Interesting. That sounds horrible, but it also sounds horribly familiar. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure I can name 5 parents off the top of my head who if I asked them how much have you got left, they would say nothing.
Yeah.
And if I said, are you the same person parenting that you were before parenting, they would say no.
Yes. I mean, I think probably most people would say no to that last question regardless, because parenthood does involve very much a change of role, right?
Yeah, but I feel like a lot of people would say I'm the same person doing a different role.
Yeah, that's fair.
Maybe I'm splitting hairs here. I don't mean to. It's just the idea of depersonalization, or what was it you said?
Yeah, depersonalization, lack of self-fulfillment.
Sounds horrendous.
It does sound horrendous. And you're right. I mean, it's awful to think that, we could name easily five parents who are feeling absolutely exhausted right now. In general, I think a recent review concluded it was about 5% of parents globally, about 10% of parents in Western cultures. That's 1 in 10.
So if I know 50 parents, I should be able to name 5.
Exactly, yeah.
And I'm sure we've seen 50 parents at school pick up.
Oh, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Wow. Okay, well, that's horrendous. Why is it? I mean, do we know why it's higher in Western civilizations?
So it's suggested that it's higher because we are much more individualistic as a culture.
What does that mean?
So individualistic cultures are cultures that promote independence above kind of community cohesion. So they are typically cultures where families live in quite isolated ways. You don't have a lot of extended families, kind of network of interdependencies within a community, but you have a lot of emphasis on privacy, on independence, on, ability to provide for your own and for no one else.
Okay, and for people who haven't had the privilege of travelling through less individualistic or more, say, cooperative cultures, it is very stark, the difference, the amount of emphasis that is put on, do your own thing, support yourself, grow as an individual in this country, speaking from the UK, versus in other cultures where we travelled.
I mean, I think one of the ones that just springs to mind. Do you remember when we were living in a Makushi village and the children walked themselves to school and back?
I do.
And the 2 children, so they were 6 and 4, were walking through the rainforest and they found the army ants.
I mean, they didn't. The army ants found them.
That's true. Well, the army ants, I'll just defer to the entomologist, Greg. What is an army ant?
An army ant is any of a number of South American species that form a bivouac instead of a nest, which is a big bag of ants made of ants. And then every morning they go, well, done with this place, we're going somewhere else. And they all head off en masse, killing everything they find en route by biting it and stinging it. And then they take it to where they're shacking up for the night, make themselves a new bag out of ants, and then eat all their stuff. Delicious. That they've caught throughout the day. Fantastic.
What a life.
What a great life. But they also will have a pretty solid go at mammals. Like they'll kill reptiles and insects and spiders and any unfortunate amphibian, but they will also sting the heck and bite the heck out of mammals, including children.
Yeah, especially when you've got these kind of, streams of ants crossing the path. They are very, very hypnotic.
Yeah, they're very hypnotic. You crouch down to look at a stream and another one creeps up behind you, which is, I believe, what happened to these 2. Yeah,
absolutely. So the older one got away from them. The younger one didn't. He got covered in ants. There was an adult cycling towards him, saw what was happening, helped him brush all the ants off, checked he was okay, and off he went to school. And I did think about the difference being of an individualistic versus a cooperative culture, where in a cooperative culture, an adult tries to sort out the problem, and in an individualistic culture, an adult tries to report the parents to social services.
Wow. Dark, but, true.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So we can see that in cooperative cultures, there's a difference in how kids are raised. Why do you think, and what does the evidence say about that making a difference to burnout?
So it seems to be that the more individualistic cultures seem to place less emphasis on a child learning the skills to be able to contribute to the family and to the community.
Okay. And put more emphasis on the child learning algebra, coding before the age of 3, and how to master Bitcoin.
Absolutely. More emphasis on performance, more emphasis on competition, and more emphasis on perfection, individual perfection.
Oh, yeah, sure. That tracks. That sounds a lot like here.
Yeah, absolutely. And so because that's the focus for the children, which affects, how the children are expected to participate in life, but it also affects how the parents feel about what they should be achieving, what they should be doing with their children, and what they fear everyone else is doing. So that is kind of a double whammy.
Got it. All right. Okay, and that is then going to lead, I assume, to huge amounts of effort being put in by parents into kids to get them to be master violinists or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's the entire cause of this burnout?
So that is some of it, about a third of it, I would say. Another big part is that if you don't invest a lot of time in training your children to be helpful, contributing members of the family and community, then you end up doing the whole lot of stuff yourself.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yes, your master violinist is not going to help you make porridge in the morning.
No.
Because they'll be practicing.
Mm-hmm. Some of them aren't even packing their bag for school.
Wow.
And that's not even contributing to the family. It's just...
Meaning that you as a parent have put a bunch more effort into training your kid, and then you have to do the exact same thing again, put in a bunch more effort to running the household because you haven't got any help.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
And then we've got the whole mental load thing, because you may have trained children to do chores when they're asked, but you're not training children to anticipate what needs to be done to solve problems as they occur.
Interesting. And yeah, I can see how that flows from a more individualistic, more judgy. Am I allowed to call it more judgy?
Yeah, that's a comparison piece, isn't it?
Yeah. Which, because you're expecting your kids to be exposed to that, you train them to do certain tasks. And then because you're expecting to be exposed to that as a parent, you're going to be judged by your kid's performance, which is weird. And then I guess you're also held to a higher standard. Oh, that's interesting. So I read in your article the thing about scrolling and comparative truth of the home, if I want to give it a grand title.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But the idea that you look around you and you see your house as it is, and then you think, no, this is naff because I've seen better on Pinterest or Instagram, versus where we lived for a year and a half. You look around at a home and you go, yeah, this is pretty much exactly the same as the three homes on either side, because I spent a significant amount of time in those homes, and they haven't even got walls, so I can just look in by walking past.
Goodness, yeah.
Like,
3 weeks living with inflated that walls, that teaches you.
It does. It teaches you a lot. Yeah. Like, for those who don't know, we spent a fair number of weeks living in a benab, which is a structure which is a roof held up on sticks. And you have no walls, and you have no privacy because you have no walls, and everybody can just wander by and go, oh, that's how they live. Look at them.
Look at those white people.
They put their dishes over there. Why would you hang up your clothes like that? But similarly, you can just walk past and see how everybody else lives.
Yeah.
Oh, you hang your hammocks 3 high. I got you. I see.
Yeah.
Put the one who wets the bed on the bottom. I understand. And so you've got the kind of double-edged thing there of, I can't look at everybody else's house on Instagram because I haven't got any signal because I'm in the jungle. And I can see into everybody else's home because they haven't got walls. Which makes it really hard to get into your head this warped understanding of, I need a better home. Which I can imagine must be devastating to people who are already susceptible to competition because they've been raised individualistically and feeling unable to compromise and deal with the emotion of it because they haven't had any darn sleep because they're too busy spending all of their entire days trying to compete. And for those who haven't experienced it, lack of sleep takes away your ability to deal with stuff emotionally, as well as your ability to compromise. And wow, this feels like a very self-fulfilling.
It is horrible.
thing.
It's like there's a lot of really unpleasant positive feedback loops going on here.
Yeah. Okay, so that's very obviously why it is a big thing in Western cultures, not such a big thing in cooperative cultures. What do we do about it?
So there is loads of advice and, ways of thinking differently and, kind of psychological support for this, because it's such a huge problem for parents. It's so common, and it has really bad effects when parents start to emotionally distance from children.
Yeah, hang on.
Yeah.
Just to pick you up on that so common thing. You said that 1 in 10 could be classified as burnt out, parentally burnt out. In your opinion, without any looking up any evidence, how many people do you think this affects?
I've thought about this a lot recently, and I feel like life is so sped up that you could do so much and you can do so much. If you're not actually really focusing on not doing everything,
Like,
I think it's really hard.
I'm going to try and put words in your mouth here, so shoot me down if I'm going the wrong way. Do you think it would be fair to say that most parents in the UK feel some element of stress, maybe even some element of panic about this kind of competitive parenting thing?
I think the people who don't are probably people who are, well, not all of them, but I think if you are dealing with food insecurity or you're dealing with poverty issues, then there's not really, I would say that the competitive element, you may have bigger things to think about.
Oh, disease of affluence.
I think part of it is a disease of affluence, because it's almost, you can afford to not have children who are helping.
But on the flip side, rich folks get away with eccentricity.
Yeah, and that's a really good point as well, isn't it?
You've read Watching English,
yeah,
and you know, if you've got money, you can do what you like. Whereas if you don't, there are some pretty strict. People come down hard on you for living in non.
Culturally normal ways.
Non-culturally normal ways, exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting as well.
Speaking from past experience.
I mean, I do think that having kids stuck in a house, or a flat, almost unable to get outside for very, very long periods, I think that is a very specific type of torture that we inflict on parents.
Yeah. I mean, lockdown or non-lockdown.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. The only reason I wanted to dig into that is that I worried that 10%
sounds quite low.
It sounds quite low.
Yeah.
And I bet this is something that affects a lot more people than that 10%.
Yeah. And to be honest, I think that for those people who are thinking, oh my goodness, am I, I'm not burnt out, but like some of these signs, I'm feeling like I can see those hovering around.
Yeah.
I think that's where the interventions really come in, or like having a think about are there some little environmental tweaks we can do that just might give me a little bit more headspace, not things that I have to choose very consciously.
Yeah.
But just a few things where I can go, all right, I'm just going to think that, and it'll just be a little bit easier.
Come on then, let's have these interventions.
So my big thing, I do think there's a massive mindset shift that can be really helpful, and that is that when I had my first baby, I very much thought that when the baby was asleep, that was when I kind of got a lot of the chores done, because when she was awake, I needed to be entertaining her. And actually, having read a lot, having seen a lot of how other cultures work, that is not a sustainable way of doing things.
Yeah.
Because there's just not enough hours in the day. You don't have enough reserves. And also, what we call as chores, which I think is quite a denigrating term, is absolutely bleeding fascinating when you're 1 or 1.5 or 3 or 5, depending on on which chore, right? There's a lot to be had from that. And if you can involve children in the chores that you're doing, A, you need to entertain them a lot less. B, they just have less time on their hands. C, by the time they are, 5, they're able to cook a meal for the family, and that's a meal that you don't have to cook. So there's just so much benefit that comes from getting children really exposed to chores, not doing chores when they're not around, and using that kind of single mindset shift as a way to train them and give yourself more time.
So that leads me in two directions. One is to encourage you to say the phrase, you sleep when they sleep.
Yeah, you sleep when they sleep, which is, I remember hearing so much with my first baby and thinking, you have no idea. And now I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? First time somebody tells you that, it's like, yeah, apart from I have to hoover and cook and clean, and I have to do this thing, and I have to apply for that thing, and I can't sleep when they sleep.
Yeah.
but it's really quite a good aim to have. Whether or not you achieve it, it's a great aim to have.
Yeah, that's fair.
The other thing is, but what about those chores that require both your hands? How are you meant to look after a small baby and use your hands?
Yeah, and that is point 1, Greg, which is use a sling. And not just use a sling, dress in a sling. Like with my second child, I just had one of those fabric kind of, single piece of fabric slings. And I put it on when I got up in the morning over my top, and I took it off at night because it meant that I never had to think about where the baby went. He just went straight in the sling, whatever we were doing. And some of the time he was asleep, a lot of the time he was awake. But when he was on me, he was happy. And I could do whatever I needed to do with 2 hands. Yep. And yes, if I had a whole huge community around me where I could pass the baby around, great. But I do think that kind of having a sling where the baby goes in and out of throughout those activities of daily living is probably, a good step towards that.
Yep. So I gently led you on to point 1 there. What's point 2?
Point 2 is it's about thinking about how your house works and your children work within that house, because fundamentally children can't get involved in the house in the chores if they are not close enough to see you doing it, or if there's too much even more fun stuff to do.
Yes.
There's location, motivation.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you have Cocomelon on, you're never going to want to sweep.
Absolutely.
But if you don't have Cocomelon on,
yeah,
sweeping is the next most interesting thing.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, when we moved to our house, the first thing you wanted to buy was a projector.
I did, because I'm a moron.
I thought, great, that is the absolute priority at this point is a projector.
To be fair, yeah, I wasn't very clever.
But it has been fantastic with children because sometimes the wall has pictures on it.
Yeah.
But other times it doesn't, and there's absolutely no reminder. I do think it's really hard when you have a television that's there all the time, because the children can be like, now why is not the television not on?
It took them 4 years to notice the remote control.
I know. Brilliant.
That was good.
But so I think there are so many things that, if you can think about making your house not quite as fun, which I know flies in the face of all our individualistic, we can provide everything, we can really spoil our children, they don't never need to want for everything. But if your house is slightly less fun, there are a whole bunch of good things that go along with that. 1, chores seem much fun. 2, outside seems much more fun. 3, interaction with you and each other seems much more fun. All of these things that we're like, we're trying to achieve these, but somehow they're being stymied by the fact that our house is too fun.
Yes, yes, that's true. The equivalent of a Playboy. Wait, not Playboy. PlayStation?
Oh, yeah. A Game Boy and PlayStation.
I got confused between a Game Boy and a PlayStation, and we ended up, instead of having a game station, which you're allowed to say on a podcast, having something else.
Well, the final point that you raised, which I think is a really important one, is about setting up your environment to make you scroll better. Yeah. So I'm going to hand over to you, Greg. What did you mean by that? What were you thinking? Yeah,
so I meant online environment, to be clear here. The idea that our current online environments are very much algorithmically driven to make us keep scrolling so they can keep on selling advertising to advertisers is well known. We all understand that. But what we might not understand, because we might not all be monkey vets who have a background in, primate behavior, is that the best ways to get people to keep scrolling is to appeal to their primate brains. And what do primate brains want to see? They want to see sex, fighting, or high-status individuals and high-status environments. That's it. That's what monkeys want to see. And we are, and I'm sorry for telling you this, monkeys. And so what gets people scrolling? Well, for men, it's very often fighting or sex. And for women, it is a little bit of fighting and sex, but a lot of very nice houses and very nice stuff. Thing is, if you spend your time scrolling very nice houses and very nice stuff, you're going to end up feeling inadequate. You're going to end up looking at high status people who have high status things and thinking, I wish I was a high status people with a high status things. And that feeling of inadequacy drives perfectionist behavior, feelings of stress, inability to stop working on the house, and this continual feeling of I need to be doing more, which raises your stress levels, raises your cortisol, raises your adrenaline, and pushes you towards burnout. So, improving your scrolling environment means things like pick something else you like looking at that isn't something to which you can compare yourself. So stop looking at funky houses and really cool outfits and beautiful people, and instead start looking at, I don't know, paintings of flowers, or, you know, if you're me, beautiful pictures of bugs that have just been discovered in Malaysia, or anything else really. Nice flowers, not nice gardens because you can compare your garden, but nice flowers. Anything that you cannot compare to you or your stuff really helps. I've done this by changing what I do and don't follow online. Another nice trick is to change your Facebook landing page from the feed, which is designed to hook you by making you feel, oh, I need to keep scrolling, look at all this high status stuff, to just your own page, your own profile page. And then you can dump your pictures or leave a profile comment. I don't know how it works. Come on, I'm old. But I do know how to protect myself from self-comparison, which has made me feel miserable in the past. Mm-hmm. There you go. That's what I meant by setting up your environment to prevent comparison. Oh, also, if you can get inside your neighbours' houses, or if they haven't got walls, that'll help as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I always used to think that my house had to be really clean before people visited. And then you just started inviting everyone over, no matter what the house looked like. And you were like, it's really important that people feel they can just drop in at any time. And I was like,
wow, that's my voice apparently.
The house looks terrible. And now I'm like, it's so important, because if my house always looks perfect, no one's going to want to have me around to their house. So They should come in and my house should look like an absolute rat bag. And then they'll be like, oh, well, she can come around to mine.
Exactly. People won't invite you over if they think that you'll be shocked by their house. So invite them in when your house looks terrible, and everybody will invite you to theirs. It's great. Okay, there you go. 3 points for feeling a bit better and not feeling quite so burnt out. Any closing comments on this?
No, there are a couple of other long shot ones in the article, so if you're interested there, go have a look at that. But I don't think it's worth discussing. Let's just have the easy ones on here. Yeah, go for it. So the longer term ones were, in quotation marks, removing garden fences, and this is about efficiency within a community.
Yeah.
And the second one is improving effective pay.
The idea of giving people more money effectively. Yeah, these are things that we can't put into effect as individuals, but we can vote for, and we can protest for, and all of that. Have a read of the article. There are some interesting ideas in there, and it'll remind you of those 3 things that you can do to feel less stressed out, less burnt out, have a nicer time, and not impart that burnt out type of parenting onto your kids, which has well proven deleterious effects in the long term. That's us done. Oh yeah, listener question. We should finish on listener question. Have you got one? I
do. My listener question this week is, why do you talk about only using water and not soap when washing the underarms? Does disrupting the microbiome contribute to odour?
Interesting. I don't remember you talking about just using no soap under the underarm. When was this?
This was in response to an article, I think, about dirt and washing in babies.
The good
and then
and
we
bad
had some
dirt one.
great conversations in the comments.
Yes, we did.
Including about, what is your adult healthcare routine?
Oversharing online again, Gwendoline.
Absolutely. But the reason I want to talk about it is, it's about adults, not children, but I think it just raises a couple of interesting points to consider when we're thinking about the skin microbiome.
Okay.
So first I had a look to see if there was anything that suggests that soap washing of the underarms increases smell over time.
And?
We know that washing with soap in the short term removes smell, right? That's obvious. Sure. That's why people do it. But there isn't good evidence to suggest whether it increases or decreases or doesn't change smell over the long term. So then I looked at something else which I know, like soap, disrupts the normal microbial communities on the skin. And so there is evidence on antiperspirants. And so antiperspirants, as I said, disrupt the microbiome on the underarm, and they also increase the levels of odour-producing bacteria in the underarm, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, and pretty clear. Like, that is an interesting thing that I had not considered. There are so many of these systems where you try and get something right in the short term, and it knackers it in the long term.
Yeah.
So, are you dishing out a recommendation here? Or is this just information?
I think this is information. I think it's interesting. fundamentally, if you are happy with the way that your skincare routine works and your skin's happy, probably no point changing it. But if you're having problems, I think that's when it's worth investigating if there's a different way of doing things that can be better.
I like that. Perfect. Well, thank you very much for talking to me. I've learnt a lot. I'm going to go and have a shower with just hot water and nothing else.
Oh, not very good for your skin barrier.
Oh,
you can go bathe in the pond, Greg.
Go
That's
get
what
in the
we
pond.
recommend.
Nice
Yeah,
and cold.
absolutely. Oh, we have to laugh.
Yes, next week, Gwen Bradbury being interviewed by a frog. Right, thank you very much. This has been Growing Up Weird. You've been listening to Dr. Greg Dickens and
Dr. Gwen Bradbury.
see you next time. Bye.
Bye.